hello everyone, and welcome to video number 2, continuation on the data visualization and analysis of your IoT data. So today we're just gonna dive into a bit into platforms, different tools and solutions that you can use in your project, but from more of a theoretical point of view. So if we now look at our wonderful roadmap here, we should be here now at the visualize the data over here, and you have the 3 possible pathways to go now, right? And this one in the middle with the big data IoT solutions, we are not gonna cover either today or in the course. Obviously, you're free to go and explore these platforms. So today we're gonna split into paths: low code or self-hosted, then more code. I wouldn't say a lot of code still, but slightly more code solutions. Today we will show you a bit of Ubidots and Adafruit. Data Cake should be still pretty similar, and there are tutorials on all 3 of them, right? And in the first video, I already showed you some of the TIG stack. And today we also cover Node-RED. And I have my wonderful TAs today with me, Joachim, Hamed, Nas, Lotta. And I really want to bring your experience here as well. So you share, everyone worked with different platforms more or less. So your perspective on what is good and what is not, what is good to start if you're a beginner, and what do you recommend for more advanced applications in the future. So I think we start maybe with the TIG stack as the continuation from the first lecture that I presented. So what do you say, Joachim?
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying, as it's part of the self-hosted solutions, it's more for higher grades than anything, actually. It's a lot of configuration, and yeah, you actually have to, you can either host it locally, like on your network, or you can actually deploy it, which means even more configuring. But if you could pull up my screen, maybe?
Yes, right.
So this is a general example of what you could do with Grafana. As you can see, you can set thresholds, you can set color-coded thresholds for different values and things like that. So the main part of Grafana is strictly visualization and graphical representation of your data values. And you have a lot of different, now we can't actually see it, but you have gauges, you have graphs, all different kinds of graphs, and you can customize this however you want. Yeah, great. Like and also you will have to create the whole stack yourself. So you will need a database, you will need a MQTT broker, which you can actually set up yourself or use something like HiveMQ. But there are a lot of steps to this. I mean, the winning or the selling point of this is that you can customize it a whole lot, like a whole lot more than you can with the low-code solutions. There are limitations as well. As I said, it's strictly for graphical representation, so you can't actually, you can't toggle switches and things like that in Grafana. You can use webhooks and alert systems and things like that when values exceed some certain threshold, but there are some limitations.
Yeah, I think what I like about Grafana and in general this Telegraph Influx Grafana stack is that they do work pretty well together. So if you are more or less technical, I would say there are a lot of software engineering students that have some experience with DevOps, setting up a container to self-host things. it's not that difficult, even if you haven't worked with this particular stack before. And they are made for each other, and a lot of things kind of come seamlessly integrated. And then if you want a nice looking dashboard without too much coding, like you don't have to code to make the actual plots, so you just need to write the queries, right, to extract the data. So like if I don't know if you can do that in your dashboard, just open up the edit.
Yeah, I can.
There's just what it
Worth
is.
noting also, this is Grafana version. No, it's actually InfluxDB version 2, which actually has its own language. Maybe I can do this.
No, I can't move this.
No,
Maybe
neither
like
can
that.
you.
Here we go.
Yeah, like that. So yeah, here you can see the query. This is just a small query that I made. But in Influx version 2, they're using their own language. And in Influx version 1, they're actually using some SQL-like language. So if you prefer to write SQL rather than Flux, which is the name of their own language, go with version 1.
Yeah, but I think the last version also has something like a hybrid. I haven't tried, like the version 3 already came out, I think. But yeah, like if you only worked with relational databases and haven't worked with any time series storage before, it might be super confusing, as I have mentioned in the lecture. But it is worth looking into if you want to continue developing in the field, because yeah, there are no IoT application that doesn't use something like this, like if it's large scale, right? So that's also like it's highly scalable, very widely used more in the industry. So that is why we do include it in the course, and very useful to know. Do you have any other recommendations, with for people that decide to go that path on the roadmap?
Not necessarily, but worth mentioning is that you don't have to work with Docker on this. You can actually deploy the different platforms locally anyway. So if you're not into Docker, you can still proceed with this solution. But we would probably recommend going with a containerized solution on this one.
Yeah, I think that will simplify things. I think there is also like a proprietary, they do offer cloud solution. Both Influx has like a free tier and the Grafana cloud. But yeah, in my experience, it just complicates things because you can't do what you want anyway. So there are ready-made containers. And so if you are somewhat familiar with deployments and stuff, it should not be too much of a problem. Otherwise, we're also here to help as much as possible. All right, thank you. Then if we go back here, right, so there we were in the TIG stack. What if we explore more on the self-hosted solutions in here in the Node-RED part of things? Hamed.
Yes, hello everyone. As Joachim said, Node-RED is also a part of self-hosted solution. If we just say that in TIG stack, Telegraph is the message broker, sort of like receiving messages and saving into database or sending to the Grafana, then Node-RED could act like that, basically. So Node-RED is a flow-based low-code development tool for visual programming. By saying that, I mean you can drag and drop, like for example here, if we just say that this is a platform, so you can just drag an input and then make a random number and output, do testing. So like this, then you can see it in the output that you can have a sort of a sort of a sort of service running on your machine. So this is as easy as installing palettes. Like everything here is like called palettes. You can manage the palettes, install the palettes, and then the palettes come and sit on the left side. And then basically you only need to drag and drop. For example, you need to connect to MQTT. You just drag and drop, click on it, connect it to something, and then after you finish deploy on top. Then you have the service going on. And then one thing is good with the Node-RED is that it's not only message broker. It could go further. It has JavaScript function, so you can write a function to filter something. It has a scheduler, so for example, you can use different schedulers, so to like a timer, so to trigger something. For example, you have an alarm or something that you need to be reminded in your system. It could do that. So you can start it with basic, and then there's no end to Node-RED. Then you only need to search for the palette if it's already been and also some companies, they are developing based on that, and then they have their whole system connected. So as in and the language that they use is JavaScript. For example, if I show you the behind these connections that you can see here is a set of sensors that I have set up in the other room. It controls monitoring, and right now I can see it here. Plus, it also has another extension, so I can install as a dashboard. Now it can
Mhm.
act as a Grafana, so you can have a dashboard viewing it, like for example the temperature to the to the time how it happens. Like I have recorded right now, it's almost 3 hours, the two temperatures I have, and also soil moisture. Then also you can control light. Unfortunately, it's not behind me. In the other room, I didn't have good image. So, but you can control it right now. I can control the lights in the other room that I have, and this is a UV
Yeah,
light.
that's so sweet.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cute. And then at the same time, for example, you wanted to like save your data. Right now this one is not persistent, so if you want to save data, then basically you can install the database connection, connect to InfluxDB. So it is a palette here, you can see connect to InfluxDB, and then this one gonna send all the value that you have into InfluxDB. Then you can go to InfluxDB and control those. This is an InfluxDB control panel. For example,
Mm.
right now I can see both temperature for the last 3 hours. Let's submit, and then you can see it like how it has been changes. So Node-RED is a connection between all these. So I can say that Node-RED is used in industry for industrial purpose. So it could be basic things. You can experiment that. And comparing to Tiki Stack, if I wanted to compare, this one has a little bit more challenging to learn, because you need for these you need to learn JavaScript, and some of them are easy, like you need to compare. Some of them you need to just put a little bit more advanced. For example, like here,
Mhm.
so to just change the format according, for example, this one is changing the format suitable to save into database, because it's called database function. So I can change, like if I don't do that, only like receiving from MQTT, it's not suitable, so I will change those format. So it gives you the opportunity to change everything. So there is no end, as I mentioned. And I suggest, if you wanted to learn this, first go with the low code platforms, which Nas and Charlotte gonna talk about, because there you learn about the basic, what is MQTT, what is API
Mm.
REST, and also webhook. Then come here, then you can install a webhook. Right now we have a webhook here, which if you go with the Adafruit tutorial, you see the webhook message. So it could send a message here. So everything that you can do on those tutorial, you also can do it on Node-RED.
Yeah, so build more advanced things after you have tried, right, with the no-code
Exactly.
platform. Is it also possible to do Python functions in those modules, or is it only JavaScript that it allows?
Right now we have JavaScript. I have seen some trying Python, but not in the control panel here.
Mm.
uh, because it can be, for example, you need to, before, if like the developers, when they wanted to run a service, for example, you wanted to open a port on TCP port, and then you wanted to have a server in here. It's easy, because you're gonna search for TCP connection, and then you can make a service. But then right now is JavaScript. But when you send the message backend, so you can do Python programming. It is
Mm.
possible, but not in the Node-RED. It's more
Yeah.
JavaScript.
Yeah, and you to host this dashboard, right? Is that a separate entity then? So you have to host both.
They're all on the same server, and they are
Mhm.
remotely. So right now they're on my remote server, but they all on the same server. You can have it on separate server as well. Right now I connect them, but if you can check it, the on top is the IP address that I have it to a server,
Mhm.
and all of them are the same. So, but you can install on different servers. So Node-RED has the possibility like to connect to a specific. Right now, for example, for database, I connect to the whole local host, but you can connect it to something else. So you can connect. Right now, it's connected to the local host, but you can change this IP here, and then voila, it could send to another IP address.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I find tried Node-RED a few times, and I see it a lot, especially in like in industrial automation. When people, I mean, you can do a lot of things even without coding. It reminds me a bit of like Scratch programming. If you ever tried that, like for kids, when you just connect things together, or like if you programmed like Lego Mindstorms or something like that, and it looks easy, but then when it's something doesn't work, it's also not so easy to figure out what. Sometimes it's just like, guys, screw this visual programming, give me the code, right? So I think it's a bit of a like smak sak, as they say in Swedish, right? I wouldn't recommend it for like as a starting point for someone who is a beginner and never tried it before, as you say. But it is definitely very useful also in the industry and advanced IoT applications. But we do provide pretty good tutorials, right? And there is also kind of, at least for the basic project, there's already pretty good setup in Node-RED, right?
Yeah, we have described how to install Mosquito and also Node-RED, and then how to use the palette. We didn't go
Mhm.
into details, as you mentioned. There are lots to learn there, so it could be many, like several lectures about. We try to just talk about where they can find the information. For example, it has some terms. We just gave a link to the concept page, so they can read about like what terms they has been used, what is flow, what is like input output things like called in that. But if they read that tutorial and if they're getting familiar before that with the other platforms, then definitely they can use it. It's really strong.
Awesome. Thank you, Hamid. So now from the self-hosted super duper things, we go a little bit back to Earth, right? And Nas, can you introduce Ubidots then?
Sure. So here we have Ubidots. So this is a low code or a some might call it a no code solution to visualizing some of your sensor data and to make sense of it. So this is a platform that has a free tier, which we're using here. I should mention that with these low code solutions for data visualization, from kind of like every year they update their UI, so things may change. So if you notice the tutorial is not quite up to date, it's probably because the UI changed, and I think we're working on it. So what can Ubidots do for you? So essentially, you can create a dashboard. So you can create a dashboard, and on the dashboard you can insert widgets. So widgets can be, for example, like a gauge, indicator, like a thermometer. You can also add charts. There's different types of charts that are available, tables, yeah, like a clock. So it does allow quite a bit of customization where you don't have to know the JavaScript to customize it. So you can kind of click and drag and drop, select colors as you need. So here, for example, I'm just displaying the temperature that I measured a few days ago. And I also chart the make a plot of the temperature with time. And then I have an indicator that will trigger a certain color based on the reading of the temperature. As you can see, it's really quite simple. It is quite simple to set up and simple to use. And I would recommend Ubidots as kind of like a first step into visualization. It uses the HTTP protocol.
Mhm.
So if you're familiar with using RESTful APIs, this can be quite straightforward to set up. So all you need is Wi-Fi really, and then you're using HTTP on top of that. However, with using UBIDOTs, I think that maybe it's better as a stepping stone. So maybe you could start with this and then maybe go on to Adafruit, because I think with Adafruit, you'll get to learn a little bit more. In particular, you'll learn about the PubSub protocol, publish subscribe, as opposed to request reply with HTTP. So HTTP tends not to be very scalable for IoT solutions because it's essentially like a one-to-one communication. But with MQTT, you'll be able to do like a many-to-many communication with publish subscribe through the MQTT protocol. And I think Charlotte is going to talk about that in a second. Other than that, yeah, so as I mentioned, this is kind of a easy to set up, good for beginners. Other than that, with these low code and no code solutions, you're kind of at the mercy of the platform. So you're kind of, if they decide to go to like a paid tier, then obviously you won't be able to use your dashboard anymore to visualize your data. So essentially, it's easier to set up, but then you lose your control and configuration, or like you don't have as much control over the hosting and also the configuration. So if you have a more advanced application or you want this your project to last for many years, I do recommend a self-hosted one, although it's much harder to get set up. And that's kind of all I have to say for now.
Yeah, I have a question. So you said that just in theory, you said that you use this HTTP protocol. So where is the data stored then? Is that up to you then, or for how long do they store the data that you visualize here?
This is a good question, and I actually don't know the answer. I think UBIDOTs will be storing it in a database somewhere on their servers. So you kind of probably in the user agreement, you probably give up the rights to that data, I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah. So be careful what you send, right? And I guess there is some kind of limitation. Usually, all these platforms they allow you a certain amount of data entries, right, for the free plan. This probably also is a limitation of how long they will store it. So as Nas said, probably good to quickly get started and see if your solution is working and it spits out something that makes sense, right? And even, of course, totally okay for a basic project in the course. All right. And Charlotte, I don't know what
Oksana,
you prefer. Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to
Oh, sorry.
add to your question.
Mm.
The message persistency is almost 1 month for free tier. These platforms that we just talked about, like for local platforms, if you wanted to keep your message longer than a month or like the history longer than a month, then you need to pay them. Usually they have between 1 week to 1 month message persistency, so they keep your messages up to them. Then beyond that, you need to pay for the storage.
Yeah, that's always the case. Good. All right. So now we move on to let's do like this
Yes,
again.
Adafruit. Let's see here. All right, yeah. So Adafruit is also one of these like low-code solutions. So it's very similar, I think, to UBIDOTs in a way, except for that it uses MQTT then instead. So I'll just show you here. So this is like you have a dashboard. You can have a few different dashboards, and I created one here that just has a light switch and some like graph of random values that are stored. And so yeah, you can have like a bunch of different visualizations here. There are a few presets that you can choose, and it's a very simple way to like start the visualization process. And what you also can do, which is pretty cool, is like add a action so that I have one here, which is, if I go to edit, I will show you. it will send a webhook message here, for example, to Discord. So I set up a little Discord server so that whenever I go to the dashboard and press off, and now you won't see this here, but you can see it on my phone, like it will publish a message like on and off. So it
Yeah,
says like
cool.
the state of the light. And yeah, you can then also set it up to connect to the Pico so that the light, now I don't have it connected here, but the light on the Pico could turn on and off, or some other lights if you have that. But yeah, and this runs over MQTT, so that's also very beginner friendly, I would say, for this platform, because the MQTT broker is hosted by Adafruit, so you don't have to self-host anything. But yes, yeah, and there you can kind of get familiar a bit with MQTT. So it publishes messages to different topics. So whenever I toggle this light switch, it publishes a message to like the light topic that I have configured, which you can see like in these feeds. Like you have some info
They have some
about
logging, basically. Yeah.
the feeds for the MQTT and stuff. And yeah, that is how it will sense, basically, or communicate between the different services.
And the
So-
limitation, I guess, is that it's not as customizable and it's a much more limited set of things.
Exactly. So I guess an advantage is it's easy to set up. You don't need to self-host anything. It has like a lot of possibilities still, I would say, with like the webhooks to Discord. And I know I saw some other add-ons as well. But yeah, it's not as customizable. It's a bit limited in the amount of different types of graphics you have here. But it's very useful for a beginner. And like if you want to sort of try out MQTT a bit, and then you could move on to the other self-hosted MQTT solution, perhaps. So yeah.
And it is
It's
free,
good for
right?
beginners. Yeah, so this is the free tier. I think you can also pay and have some more. There were some like add-ons that were a paid tier or something, but for a lot of use cases, it's free. So.
And the storage, then, I guess, a similar problem or disadvantage as
Yeah, it
for...
might be. I'm not 100% how it's saving that or for how long.
Yeah, it also changes all the time, so we should. But all of this, always this IoT platforms we worked, for instance, with, there are also a bunch of smaller actors that are doing customizable. Like if you just Google IoT platform, there are like so many options, and they always have this problem with like, yeah, there's a limited access to your data. It is somewhere in the cloud, and there's no one knows how and when it's backed up. We had like an issue, for instance, in one project we used, would not name the platform, but that just kind of lost the client's data, and yeah, it was not possible to. It can happen also with you, but then it will be your fault. But just good to think, depending on what problem you're solving. But I think Adafruit, it is kind of nice for small automation projects. There's those fun things, like switching light remotely or getting a notification when someone is walking by your house, or like checking your mail or something like that. You can do a lot of fun things pretty easily, and you still get an introduction to all the sort of IoT bits and pieces. So that was what we had for you today. I would like to say just good luck, and whatever you do, you'll be fine. We'll help you with any of the green paths on the roadmap. Hopefully you got some inspiration and understood a bit of the spectrum from very advanced customizable hundreds of visualization options to advanced automation, and then finally to very very simple platforms where you don't even have to code or set anything up. What do you guys say in your experience? What is the most popular solution on the course from previous years?
Adafruit.
Yeah, easy guess. Right. What is the percentage you think of people that pick self-hosted?
For self-hosted, I would say maybe 10-15%.
They all get an A just for trying.
Yeah, exactly. Most of them do, actually.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so this is just wink, wink. What you need to do, right, to get to compensate if you still only set up humidity and temperature sensor with like the basic tutorial, but then created a self-hosted Grafana or some automation in Node-RED, then you're good to go for high grade. So yes, do you guys want to say anything else, or are we wrapping this up?
I just want to say good luck, and you have 2.5 weeks left of this course at least, so make the best out of it, and it will be totally fine.
It's perfect rainy weather to sit and tinker on the programming. So
I would also like to add, if you are aiming for a higher grade, do not forget the Discord participation aspect. So active participation on Discord is expected to get a higher grade, especially for an A.
yes,
Remember that. So
cool.
And it's always
All right.
fun to share.
I also
the
wanted to add
projects.
something.
Yes.
Yeah, I also wanted to add something. Don't hesitate to try this self-hosting platform, even if you're not. I suggest usually to the students, go with the low-code platforms. Then you understand the concept, like how MQTT works. Then and also safeguard that at least you have the minimum requirement for the project. Then come to the self-hosted. If you cannot finish it, because we know that it's a 5-week course, if you cannot finish it, please document it in your report, because that's also counted as a try. So I would suggest to do that. And the same as Joachim, good luck.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. Start simple, and but then still try to push your boundaries a little bit, and learn these technologies, because they will be very useful for you in the future. All right, thank you guys for joining me and helping me with this. I appreciate it, and yeah, see you all.
See
Bye.
you.
Thank you. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.